Hello there, from the 757 Spy Flight Deck. Guess what they did? They updated the 737. I think we probably ought to take a 737 flight, right? We're going to do what I call the benchmark flight. This is whenever an airplane gets updated, this is a standard flight I do just so that I can concentrate on the updates and stuff like that. Hello, I'm Dave. I do the spy flights over on Twitch and been doing a little bit more here on YouTube. I hope these are things that you like. These are complete flights, and today we've got a flight with the Boeing 737 from PMDG because they just went and they did an update. And I think I've got the change log. I've got the change log. It's long as usual, but I think that there's a couple of things to be sure and make sure you do. First of all, they've updated nose wheel tiller steering. So you need to make sure that your axis is now changed, correctly pointed to the nose wheel steering axis. That's the official word from the developers at PMDG. They've also changed some of the pedal steering, and they've updated some textures and a lot of other things. So the things you need to do is A, be sure you change your tiller, or at least make sure that you're set up correctly with the tiller. And then the other thing that you need to be sure to do is if your departure is time sensitive, this is an update that's going to require one of those long waits as Microsoft Flight Simulator processes all of the update stuff. So our flight today, if you've done these with me before, I'm doing my usual testing flight. You should actually set up your own testing flight too. This is a flight that, you know, the flight plan like the back of your hand. It's a flight that, you know, you can do with your eyes closed. That way you basically got time to concentrate on the airplane, make sure that all of your control settings are good, and then you can go out and jump into, you know, VATSIM and PARO and stuff like that. Cruise today, flight level 340, total flight time's about an hour and 47 minutes. It's a 439 mile flight. And so let's go ahead and hop into the airplane here. Let's see, one of the textures that was mentioned over on 737NG Pilot, who did the first video that I saw in the update, is now they've correctly redone the texture here as far as the emergency exit there. I guess that wasn't done correctly. That's really nice. The reflections in the wing are absolutely amazing on this airplane. And by the way, this is one of those airplanes that you really should go and use your drone camera and walk around someday. This is a cool airplane for doing just that. But there is a United 737 that departs from this gate every morning at my hometown airport. That's another thing about a benchmark type of a flight like this. I do like to suggest also that, you know, you shadow real world flights. I mean, you know, see if you can't keep up with the other one. If not, beat the flight to the gate. So let's see. Airplane appears to be that I haven't done anything except load it on up. So let's go on down here and do our usual flows. And the first thing I do is go to FS Actions, and then I do to go to Ground Services, and we're going to call the jetway. Now you might have noticed that over here on my cold and dark setup, I actually have the passenger door already open. Shh, don't tell anybody. That's just so I don't have to open the door should be open. And really the jetway should be in place too. So that's how the pilots and ground crew would find the airplane first thing in the morning. Maybe the door isn't open, but the jetway would be in place. So we have a jetway in place. Our door is now open. And one thing hopefully that they will someday do is give us a door to walk through. I know it's a silly thing, but you know what? It's a little bit of the immersion and stuff that we like. You know, we get to walk around in airplanes. Some of us don't get to walk around airplanes every day. Okay, so we've got those taken care of. The only other thing I do is make sure my wheel chocks are in place. Parking brakes, as you can see, are off. So there you go. Now, one of the things is the pilots are going to go, and in the pilot's office, they're going to go and do a bunch of stuff that we have to do in the airplane. So let's go ahead and just turn power on the airplane right now. We can turn on the battery. We can also kick in ground power. There's ground power, and we'll also turn on the nav lights. Okay, so we'll just get those things done right out of the gate here. We could also go and we could do the hydraulic pumps. And we're going to go ahead and let's get the APU started. I've noticed that the APU is started here on the ground, when I get there. So let's go and get the APU going so that we've got pneumatics in the airplane. And now we can go over here and we can go back to the menu page and PMDG actions and ground services, and we can go and start entering our data from the flight plan. So next page. And what do we have here? Fuel. So right now we have 5,000 pounds of fuel aboard. That's from our last flight. We need to get down to Denver, 12,614. So 12,614 pounds of fuel. We're going to go and put that in there right now and request a fuel truck. Let's just get the fuel truck and get that taken care of. And sorry about my voice. The allergies have been particularly bad this type of year, so my voice is definitely showing some signs of strain. Passengers, we have 128 brave souls getting ready to fly down to Denver with us today. We're not going to start them down the jetway yet. Let's fuel the airplane first. As for cargo, let's see. Total cargo is 7.3. What I usually do is divide that number by 2. Sometimes it's an easy division. Sometimes it's not. This is 3.65 up front, 3.65. It's also early in the morning here, 3.65. I lost internet yesterday during the Spy Flights live stream. And I've got to tell you, I hate losing the opportunity to live stream. So I'm starting early today because I wanted to get this done because I can't wait to get to that. Because for me, it really is kind of fun. And here comes our fuel truck. You can also see our baggage loaders are showing up too. And we're fueling the airplane. Baggage loaders are up there. I think we've got APU up and running. So let's go ahead and get some pack on. It's already starting to get a little bit warm here in the morning in Big Bill. So I'm the only one I think that calls it Big Bill. So anyway, let's go ahead and get some air conditioning rolling on into the airplane too. And we can go and do a few other things, like turn on the navigation system. So there's nav and nav. And as soon as this activates, we should start to see some numbers up here and in the IRS display. I usually will look up there and see if I've got a 9 or an 8 or a 7, and usually the number starts going down. If you're starting early in the morning and it's still dark outside, Boeing conveniently puts the light switch right up here in the top center. So as you're walking in, it's very easy to find that. Flip it on, and you've got lights in your cockpit, which has got to be kind of nice. This is what I call a first cup of coffee flight. And instead of waking up and looking at news and stuff like that, one of the things that I do kind of like to do is start my day with a flight like this. It just starts a little bit more positive, at least for me. And, I'm not one of the people that's crazy about the world. The world is crazy enough, but this is just a really nice way for me to start the day. So if you're kind of feeling a little overwhelmed by the world and stuff like that, I kind of like to suggest doing things like this. It doesn't take that long. And unless you're, crazy morning to get out the door to get to work and stuff, this is really a nice way to get going. And the airplanes are so cool. I mean, we're getting regular updates on this. The Phoenix is getting amazing. The scenery is amazing. If you're a flight sim geek, what better way to start the day than a morning flight? And I'll stop with my morning stuff now. Let's go over here, and we're going to get a GPS position in there, and that's going to be our position init. Let's go over here and do KBIL. We are going to Big Denver, DEN, Denver International Airport. If you're trying to figure out what kind of a flight maybe you should do in the morning, look at, flights out of your hometown airport in the morning, and those are probably really good flights. Next is waypoints. Our first stop is the Billings VOR. And that's usually the top one. Then it's going to be gates, and grins, and then tofu, TOFUU. And there's our flight plan. See, this is the cool thing about doing these little morning flights that you already know about. Getting the flight plan in here is just the easiest thing. Really, the only thing that I look at to see is what are the active runways at the airports. Usually it's 28 right here. And then over in Denver, it's either 35 left or 16 right. Denver's landing south right now. So let's come on over here and see. How's our gas? So, we haven't started yet. Oh, forgot to hit the start button. You actually have, you actually have to tell them to turn on the gas. I guess maybe that's them swiping your fictional credit card or something. So, okay, we got to do that first. All right, so we got legs. Let's go and do departure and arrival. And we are departing off of 28 right, as usual in the morning here. Come on out over here. Our arrivals are going to be 16 right, Flatiron arrival, tofu, via Tishner, and execute. And there you go. I mean, it's that easy to get your flight plan in. The only other thing that sometimes changes is your cruise altitude. So you're able to concentrate on learning how to do these amazing airplanes. And that's the really cool thing there. Current time, 42. If we're going to get an on-time departure, it's time to start the passengers down the jetway. So we're going to go ahead and get them going. There's a little bit of gas going in the plane now, but we got to get passengers walking down the jetway. Let's also go ahead and request the baggage trucks now. So let's request these. The forward baggage is not going to show up until after. Forward baggage isn't going to show up until after we're done putting gas in the plane. But we can get the luggage carts out there. And over on Discord, Chris just did the good morning. The community over on Spy Discord is just some of the nicest people. There's also some people that are really smart about flight sims and computers. So link for the Discord is down in the description. If you're looking for just a place to hang out, you need some questions answered about flight sim in the middle of the night, there's some people there that are twice as smart as I am, and they're going to be able to help you figure that out. So if you get a chance, join the Discord over there. We've also got some pretty good moderators over there, so they're really good at keeping, the toxic and stuff out of there. Flight cruise altitude for today's flight is going to be flight level 330. So I'm just going to go ahead. There's no SID going out, so let's just do our cleared altitude of 33,000 here. So there is 33,000 feet. Let's also go ahead and put this up here. 33,000 feet. Denver. So landing altitude in Denver. The best place to get those is off your nav charts. One of the things I haven't done is gone to Navigraph and get my stack of charts yet. So we can also go and get our stack of charts. I think these are the things that the pilots would be doing before they come out to the airplane. All the flight papers and stuff that they need to do. So we'll go over here and get our charts list, and we need the airport ground chart for Billings. We also need to get the star coming in, and that's the Flatiron arrival. So Flatiron 3, we know we're coming in on 16 right, and we're going to need a Denver taxi chart, and we're also going to need Concourse B. So this is looking pretty good here. Let's look at the airport page. And Denver's altitude is 5434. So 5,400 and change. And we'll just hold down the button here and let it spin. So there's 544, 545. I think we round it to the nearest, so that would be 5,450 feet. So we're good to go there. What about weather? So weather, one of the best places to go for weather, I think, is this little thing here called METAR TAF. And we'll just come over here and hit refresh. And this is a great way to visually see what it is that you're going to expect as far as the weather. So the winds are coming here. Looks like they're coming at us from the south. So it's going to want to blow the airplane to the right side of the runway. As far as the winds are about 3 knots. So it's not that strong. This will also give you a good visual representation of where the clouds are and show you the METAR down here, so you're able to start learning how to decode METARs. And it's pretty simple. Right now, the winds are 2203. 220 at 3 knots. We got a few clouds at 11,000 feet. Some more clouds at 16,000. The temperature is 19. The dew point's 12. When the dew point and the temperature are really close together, you might have to worry about a little bit of fog in the morning. And the altimeter is 3017. So we can come in and do our altimeters. 3017. One of the things that I do is I tie all my altimeters together. This is a two-person cockpit. You're one person, especially in a VATSIM event. Holy cats, does this get hard to deal with. So one of the things that I do suggest is tie all your altimeters together. You don't need all that. Fuel is good. We are now fueled. Let's release the fuel truck. Passengers are doing pretty good as far as boarding. Let's start the rear baggage loading process, and we're just waiting for the forward trucks to show up. And so that's going to happen after the fuel truck departs. So we've already got fuel baggage going in the back. We got passengers walking down the jetway. We got the APU, it's up and running. We can go and do a few more upper panel things. We can turn on the yawn dampers, especially in the morning. You got to get those yawn dampers taken care of because you don't want people yawning in the cockpit. I'm kidding, of course. I know that that's yaw dampers, but let's turn on the window heaters. We're going to get those going here. We've already got our hydraulic pump system. You can see that the forward entry door and the forward and aft cargo doors are open, so that's a good thing. APU is up and running. We're on ground power. We'll disconnect from ground power in just a little bit. We have packs on. The bleed is on. Isolation valve is open. Everything's pretty much nicely set up here, so that's good to go. If we want, we can look up here and we can see that the IR display is now gone. The numbers have stopped decreasing, so I'll bet, yeah, look at that. The system is now aligned, so that's pretty good. And so the forward carts are now arriving, so that's a good thing too. We're going to wait and get those forward carts. We're going to get the baggage going here. Now, you don't have to go and load passengers. You don't have to load baggage. You can just put in a 0 fuel weight and fuel, and you're done. You don't have to do this kind of immersion here. If you're like me and you miss going to airports and travel and, being a part of the world, this is a little bit of, flight sim catnip. So there you go. Okay, now we got that going, so now we can go and start doing a few more things. Let's go to route here, and we're going to go to performance init. We know that our final cruise is going to be 33,000 feet. So cruise altitude, 33,000. There's our final cruise. There's another thing here for cruise winds. I've made the shift over to the Lido style of charts. I used to use the United Airlines, 2018 version of these charts for the longest time. Finally got off my butt and started learning how to do this. One of the reasons is it gives you average winds. Now, maybe those were over on the United charts, but I sure couldn't find them. So 260 and 37 are our average winds. So 260 at 37. There's our winds. Reserves. So what's reserves? Right now for me, reserves is final reserve plus alternate fuel, which is going to be 4.5. So 4.5 is our final reserves. Yes, I have not done 0 fuel weight yet. Cost index is right here at the top. Cost index for today's flight is 35. So 35 is our cost index, and we're going to just stop there. One of the things that we don't get out of the PMDG that I hope is coming with the electronic flight bag is going to be a load sheet. And so we can probably get a little bit more of an accurate load sheet report. I have no idea what they're going to be doing, but load sheets would be nice. Let's see how the passengers are doing. We have 126 of 128 passengers. Passengers are almost aboard. So we're good to go there. We'll leave the front door open, but passengers are now boarded. So now all we're doing is waiting for cargo. Suitcases, and of course, we're always waiting for suitcases. We can do a few more things up here. We can do our departure heading off the runway. I usually grab this off of charts, and I try not to go off of memory with a lot of this stuff, even though I did put the flight plan in from memory. I did look at it this morning, but 282. So 282 is going to be our heading off the runway. Two 282. Okay, so that's good to go. We have 282 set in there. We can come down here and we are squawking standby. We'll just do 2000. We could also go to 122.8 if we want to be ready to talk on VATSIM. We're not on VATSIM, but you can do that sort of thing. And everything's looking good here. Now we're essentially just waiting. It is currently 12:51 Zulu. The real flight probably usually pushes back from the gate about 10 minutes early here each morning. So we're just waiting for bags, and we're scheduled to depart at 13:01. Flight schedules sounds incredibly ridiculously boring and stuff like that, but I got to tell you, that's just one of the things that you do in airplanes like this. Okay, we're loaded here, so we're going to go ahead and release the baggage carts in the back of the airplane. So the baggage carts are about ready to go away. I'm still punched into ground power, and I'll show you why it is that we still got ground power on in just a few seconds. There goes the baggage carts for the back of the airplane, and we'll see the little conveyor belt drive away too. If you look carefully, you can see they've already closed the back hatch for us too. So that's really nice. And you can verify that up here with the doors. You can see the aft cargo is now closed. We are almost done loading here too. So after loading, the pilots are going to get a final load sheet. That's the final amount of bags, the final number of passengers to get an accurate zero fuel weight. That's that yammering I did about the load sheet. In this case, to get the final number, we just wait until everything's loaded, and then after that, just click zero fuel weight, and it will give you the airplane's current zero fuel weight, and that's how you can put that in. Even though it's daylight, I also like to backlight the main panel. It just makes stuff pop out of the panel a little bit easier. I also like to backlight the instruments down here. I just can see it better on the screen. I don't know if it actually that makes a difference, but I usually backlight my Boeing and my Airbus cockpits instruments, and also the MD-11 too over on X-Plane. Okay, we're going to release those. Our bags are now released, so all of this is looking good. So now we're over here, and we've got passengers loaded. The ground crew has just come in, handed the pilots the final load sheet. So click zero fuel weight, and that gives us our final zero fuel weight, which should be relatively close to what it is that you got on your flight plan. But again, I think maybe they change a little bit. Let's do N1 limits. Right now, all I'm doing is I'm just doing a takeoff derate -1 and climb -1, and that's about as good as I've gotten as far as figure out what's the best derate. If your runway is longer than 7,000 feet, I'm told that the generic rule of thumb on a 737 is flaps 1 for takeoff. Shorter, it's flaps 5. Center of gravity, the best way to get that is just click it. It's going to give you the current one. If it's computed somewhere, I have no idea where it is. And this gives also our V speeds for takeoff. V2 is 137, so we're going to add 10 and call it 147 in the IAS window for takeoff. And there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to disconnect not disconnect ground power. We're going to turn on the APU generators. And then we're going to disconnect ground power. Oof, saved us there. And now what we can go and do is we're going to go and return, go to doors, and we're going to close the main door. And there's our main door closing. Main door has closed. Go back, go to ground services, and release the ground power cart, which also simultaneously releases your jetway. Watch, it won't. Yay! It releases the jetway. So it takes care of that for you too. Now then, these airplanes have gotten more and more complex. There's a real world checklists to get. If you want a real world checklist for a Boeing 737, it's a Google search. Just do B737 space checklist space PDF. You'll get one. Let's go ahead and do pre-flight. Oxygen. There's oxygen. Nav and instrument trans switches are normal. Yaw dampers are on. Window heat is on. Pressurization mode selector is set to auto. Flight instruments, we have heading and altitude set. GPS is set to nav. Parking brake is not set. Parking brake is set. Woo, good. Got the parking brake set. Good. Engine start levers are cut off. We can now do the before start checklist. Yeah, I mean, they would probably do a few things like brief the departure and stuff. So flight deck door is closed and locked. Fuel is verified against the flight plan, 12.6. And you can actually, if you want to be a good pilot, you go grab your flight plan, 12.6. Just to make sure that all is right in the world. Passenger signs are not on. Passenger signs could go on. There's passenger signs. Let's also go ahead, and the doors are closed. Arm the emergency exit lights. Mode control panel, we have got heading, altitude, and now IAS Mach is set. Takeoff speeds are set. Those are good too. The CDU pre-flight is done. Rudder and aileron trim. I don't know if there's anything that I'm doing other than just verifying, and they appear to be 0. Taxi takeoff briefing, yeah, sure. And so now what we'll do is come on over here, and I'm going to squawk transponder, which on VATSIM is squawking mode Charlie. And we can go and do anti-collision lights, can go on too. And now we'll come back down here, return, push back. Let's do select our tug. And then I also, to get behind the crew line, I type in 175. You'll notice that instead of 175 appearing there, it does 295. Okay, but that seems to know where the distance to the taxi line. So maybe that automatically gets it for me. I don't know. We are ready to go. So chocks are in place, but I think that this tug will remove your chocks. It did. And you know what that means? We are ready to go. So let's go and start it.
Cockpit to ground. Go ahead. We've been cleared for pushback and start, tail straight out. Roger that. Ready for push straight back. Brakes off.
Parking brakes are off.
Brakes released.
It takes a few seconds here, but all of a sudden you get to watch your pushback. It takes a few seconds here, but good, you get to watch your pushback. One of the things that I do is even if I know the airport that I'm going to be at, I will almost always make sure that I've got moving maps set up someplace just to help me out. That is particularly helpful. Really kind of helpful when you are... it's helpful when you're on VATSIM and you're starting to get a little overworked. And you do reach a point on VATSIM and these complex airplanes where you will get oversaturated with tasks. So being able to have that visual, yes, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, gives you a little bit of peace of mind and keeps you where you're supposed to be. Let's start some engines here. So let's go ahead and do fuel pumps and wait for the low pressure lights to go out. Let's go ahead and do packs off. Packs are now off. Let's go ahead and start engine number 2. Look down here, look for increase in N2. We've got N2 going up. We're going to also, if we wanted to, we should look down here and see also oil pressure going up too and not going down. Means we don't have an oil leak. 18, 19, there's 20% on N2. We're looking for 25 on this airplane. 24 and 25. Parking brake is set and engine is going on. One of the things that they've modeled in this airplane, and I think they also did this in the Phoenix, is a lot more of the low end of the sounds of the engine starts here. And I really appreciate that. That's one of the sounds that's been kind of missing for me. And we're getting a good start on engine number 2. You can see that the tug just disappears after you get the brakes on. And we can go ahead and start engine number 1. Engine number 1 starting. And just like the other engine, Is the N2 going up? It sure is. Is oil pressure going down? No. And we're looking for 25%. And now that this thing has gone and we're done with this, I will go and do menu, FMC, and I go and I put progress over on the Copilot side. There's 25%. Fuel. If you listen, you can hear the low rumble of this engine going up too. Wow. You also hear that low rumble when you're coming in and you're descending, and the engines go to idle too. That was a sound that I've always noticed as a passenger, and it's never been modeled until now. At least not that I've noticed. And we are getting a good start on engine number 1. The click you just heard was the starter. So engine start, both of those are stable at about 60% N2. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to get generators. There's our generators now on the engines. Let's go and get the packs back on because, hey, it's going to start getting steamy out there. We can also turn off the isolation valve, so close and then auto, and then the APU bleed can go off. We're going to turn on our probe heaters, and we can now turn off the APU. And before taxi checklist, generators, probe heat, anti-ice, it's summertime. Isolation valve is set to closed auto. Engine start switches, now they go to continuous for takeoff. This is actually something I forget to turn off after takeoff. Pressurization packs are on, and we are at flight auto, so that's good. Auto throttles are now armed. And then this is the time when I usually will come over here, and this is when I do my flight directors, because I've been forgetting my flight directors. Recall. Recall is clear. Auto brakes, RTO. Engine start levers are idle. Flight control surfaces. Now there is some views that you can get down here in the lower, I don't know, they call it an ECAM in a Boeing, so that you can monitor those. In mine, it doesn't show up. So the only thing, oh, look at this, it shows up now. Okay, maybe they fixed that. I saw it showing up in other airplanes, now it shows up in mine. How about that? Yay. I don't know, maybe I did something, maybe I was doing something wrong, but there you go. So we've got that going. Flight controls are good. Ground equipment is clear. Hand signal, we are ready for taxi. So come on up here, ring the bell, let the flight attendants know we're gonna taxi. Nose light is going on. Parking brake is released. Sit back, make sure your chair is good. So it's going to be interesting here. We're going to go and try and make sure, this is where we're going to find out if I've got my binding set up. Add a little power here. Let's look over here. We start rolling forward. Nose wheel tiller over. Hey, look at that. We're steering the airplane. Wow. Hey, I will try to never steer you in the wrong direction. Okay, yeah. Clearly the coffee is kicking in now, right? Because the silly jokes have started. But hey, this is about fun. And if you're not having fun, then changes need to happen. Okay. And now we'll release the tiller. Let's see if I can do... there's a little turn to the right. That appears to be right. So here's what you can do. With the rudder pedals, I think I read in the change log that you're supposed to be able to steer the nose wheel 7 degrees with the rudder pedals. If you want to do any more than that, you have to do the tiller. So we're coming out here, little less throttle, and now I'm using the tiller to do a little bit more of a tight turn. I think the reason that that's set up that way is this way you can use rudder pedals if you're going to do a high-speed exit off of, at a big airport, the high-speed taxiways. So that's kind of what we've got there. Okay, so we're looking good. I've noticed that you need just a little bit of throttle to maintain about 10 knots of taxi. So it's not exactly a thrust idle taxi like over on the Airbus. So I've got a little bit of throttle going right now. Yes, I see the TCAS is off. And I like to get this up to about 10 to 12 knots, unless I'm on a real long taxi. So there's 9. Some airline SOPs are going to have you dropping your flaps before you leave the gate. Since I live in a snowy place, I'm always kind of thinking, you know, snow zone and stuff, and you don't drop your flaps for takeoff until you get closer to the runway, because you don't want a bunch of snow and ice and junk kicked up into your flap mechanisms. I know it's summertime and it's time for me to think differently, but okay, clearly I need help. Okay, we're doing about 11 knots. That's good. So how about 1 notch of flaps? And it's always cool to go and look back and see flaps. I don't know why, that's just a little satisfying there. You can also look forward and see your leading edge slats coming out. There they go. But you also want to stay in your taxi lane too. See, that's the hard part about being touristy and stuff. You know, you want to go and enjoy the views, but you also have to steer your airplane. Last step in the before takeoff checklist is going to be stabilizer. So here's a good straightaway. Stabilizer is 5.33. There's 5. That's about, looks like 5.33. I don't know of a better setting than that, so you just kind of eyeball it there, and there you go. This is great. I have not seen this. This is the first time I've seen that show up down there. Outstanding. Glad to see that too. Now, maybe I was doing something wrong. I don't know, but there you go. Now, I'm doing something wrong. After takeoff, I'm noticing that sometimes my auto throttle will shut itself off. Usually, I'm trying to notice when that happens. I don't usually engage LNAV and VNAV until off the runway. That might be wrong. So I may need to go and start perfecting that. As we approach the runway, one of the things is now as I know where I'm going clearly. I have 1 left turn and there's our runway. So at this point, I'm going to turn this off and just put my charts away and not look at the moving map unless I have to. As we are approaching the runway here, we're going about 12, 13 knots. Now I'm going to go to idle throttles. This is such a cool little airplane. I was never really a big giant fan of the 737. There were much more interesting airplanes for me. Hats off to PMDG for, you know, making such a good airplane now. Between this and the Phoenix, now we've just got this incredible simulator that's visually stunning with really, really great airplanes. I think the one thing that's missing for me is there's broadcast towers here, and seeing the lights, especially at night coming in, is an important visual reference. There is a application, a little download you can get that adds some of that scenery. And here we are. And we can verify our runway, kind of wait for ATC to clear us out. ATC says, clear for takeoff, 28. So let's go over here, and we're going to reach over here and go strobes. There goes strobes. And out we go. If we want to be nice to the flight attendants, we're going to give them 1 more ring of the bell. Maybe it's a little late on this, but, you know, flight attendants, seats for takeoff. Taking a little bit more power to get going here. There's actually a little bit of an uphill here. So we've actually been going downhill, but to get back over here to the runway, you're actually going up a hill here. It's not a hill, it's a little bump, but still, maybe that's why it took a little bit more thrust to get us going. And then look out here, there's the runway. Do a nice smart turn to take runway heading. And there's runway 28 right. A nice pro lineup there. That looks good. Last step, landing lights. Let everybody know this airplane's serious about doing that flying thing. Throttle's going up. I usually run this up until I see the indicator go to the 40% on N1, stabilized, and then I push it all the way up to the top. To the top to the top of the takeoff detent.
Airspeed's alive.
Steering with rudder pedals. I also really appreciate 80 knots checked. I really appreciate the airspeed callouts on takeoff.
V1, rotate. E2. Positive rate of climb.
Gear. Okay, now you see my auto throttles have disarmed again. So that's weird. I don't know why. Let's do LNAV and VNAV and rearm the auto throttles. So I must be doing something wrong. And now we're gonna go to command. And this should take over. And now you can go and look outside and do the, I can see my house from here, which is always cool to do. This airport's on a nice little bluff, and when I wake up in the morning, I usually am still one of those early morning kinds of people, so one of the things I do is I tend to look outside, and I get to see not one but three cargo flights arrive each morning. This is sort of a regional, not a hub, but it's a regional destination. We get 2 Airbus A300s and usually a 757 cargo liner coming in here, which is great. And let's see, we can do flaps up. Let's go over here and do this one. I right now do not have the flap axis set up on this. I'm just using buttons for up and down. I'm using the TCA officer pack. So that's Airbus. So I'm still using buttons to have flaps going up and down. I will tell you though that the speed brake lever for the TCA captain's pack works really good. So the Airbus speed brake lever is great. I also don't use the gear lever on this one because there's no off position. So I have an up and down button for gears, and then I can just click it to off for that. And out we go. Let's make the map a little bit bigger. Airports, data. See, I forgot to do TARA, so Terra, and I also forgot to do traffic. Terrible. Bad pilot. Speed's coming up. There's 10,000 feet. So landing lights. Cabin call. Let the cabin crew know that we're no longer in sterile cockpit. And so if they have to call us, they could. There's gates, there's grins. We have airports up in case we lose an engine. We know where we can go. And we can kind of look outside. And I have no doubt that if we were departing from here, this is what it would look like. If we were sitting on the right side, and if we were sitting on the left side. There's the last little bit of the Yellowstone River that we'll see. And out we go. Nice sunrise departure here. Using Flight Radar 24, or FlightAware, if you're following a real-world flight like I usually do, you could also go and call up that flight and see how things are going. Our departure is looking really good right now. So over here, we can go and look and see what the developers had to say. This is update 3.00.0025. An accumulation of things that are detailed. This was the thing that caught my attention right here, obviously. Make sure that your nose wheel steering axis is good. Previously, they were using the Prop 1 axis for tiller, but that's changed. So I went in and made sure that that was changed. This is where I learned about the nose wheel steering, 7 degrees. And then they also talked about a lot of under the hood types of changes and updates here. And there is the list. So virtual cockpit changes. Let's see, general documentation. They've clicked up a illustration for Toga. Cockpit control knobs are supposed to be working better. Heading select and LNAV buttons are illuminated at the right time. You couldn't do heading select and LNAV. So apparently those two they fixed that. So that's fixed there. Hold entry with 3 minutes. So there was a typo in the tutorial in documentation. They fixed the typos. This was the paint kit. The right side overwing exit gray outline has been fixed. So all of this, these are the latest updates. One of the things they also talked about is some of the other things they're doing. They're implementing the final rounds of changes for the 800 and the new EFB implementation, which is going to be across the entire 737 fleet. So I think that if you're going to stay, just fly this airplane right here, you're eventually going to get an electronic flight bag. And given how good the electronic flight bags are in other airplanes, I imagine that what we're going to get out of PMDG is really going to be good. Let's see, there was also some videos. Apparently the beta has been released for Sim Update 10. I think with Sim Update 10, that means that one of the things that we're going to be getting here is weather radar. And so I'm really looking forward to having some weather radar, especially now this time of year. This is when the afternoon thunderstorms are starting to pop up in North America and also in Europe. So now is going to be a great time for weather radar to be working. So that's exciting too. Forgot to, I usually when I do gear up, I do auto brakes off. So there's our hydraulic system. There's brake temperatures. This is really cool. I haven't seen this one before. Absolutely outstanding. Passing 20,000 feet, let's go ahead and ring the bell. Let the flight attendants know that they can get up and start doing the coffee and Stroop waffles. I don't know if United still does those or not. The outside modeling here on this airplane, I'm continuously blown away at how good it's getting. It really is getting better and better, and I'm amazed at how good this airplane looks. I think that one of the things that the aircraft modelers are going for is, in airlines, one of the things the pilots do is the walk around. I think that one of the things that they're doing is they are trying to get to a point where you can do a fairly accurate walk around of your airplane in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So that is, increasing levels of cool for me. Again, I'm going to call it Flight Simmer catnip here. One of the tools that I really do like to use when I am, in the U.S. is something called the Digital ATIS. So this is great. Link in the description, of course. But this is a really great way to read a real-world ATIS. So unless you're flying on VATSIM, this is a great way to go and see what are the active runways. Approach runways, 16 left, 17 right. What, not 16, runway 16 right and 34 left are closed. Oh, so the right side's closed right now. I've chosen the wrong runway. Let's just not tell anybody. Let's say you don't have this. Let's say you want to fly in Europe How would we know what to do in Frankfurt? So let's go to one of my other favorite websites. Let's go to FlightAware. And let's go and do EDDF. So here's Frankfurt on FlightAware. You can do it at Flight Radar 24 too. But if you come in here, let's just go on in, and you can see Frankfurt is landing to the southwest. So now you're able to go and at least see how they're landing. So this is how you can do this in Europe. And let's go and see how the flight is that I'm shadowing is doing. So let's see. This is going to be a United flight. They switched out the Q400 with an E175 for the Seattle flight today. I don't see Denver. Helena, Ontario, Dallas. There is a SkyWest flight at 11 o'clock. What happened to the 7 a.m. flight? There it is. Here's the 737-800. They have taken off. So they took off 7 minutes early. We were probably pretty close to on time. Now, one of the things that you'll also get out of this is, in some cases, you'll also get you'll get gate assignments. So sometimes it disappears at a certain point, but then it'll reappear. Some airports will not put that out there, but if you can, try and take a look at something like this and see what gate you're going to. That's kind of a cool thing, especially on VATSIM. Because if you're in a big VATSIM event, like NASCAR just put in my Discord that there's a VATSIM event in Atlanta tonight. So let's say we were going to do, I don't know, Chicago to Atlanta. There's got to be a United flight from Chicago to Atlanta. What are the gates that airplane would go to? Because when you get off the runway and they switch you to ground control, the ground controllers are going to say, "Welcome to Atlanta, say parking." Parking, I just said parking, but they're not going to think that that's funny. What they really want you to do is, do you know a gate number? So we're going to probably fly this VATSIM event later on today. So let's go and see if we can't do a little bit of intel here. Let's go up here and we're going to go to FlightAware. And so let's try and do KORD, Chicago O'Hare, KATL, Hotlanta, and let's go and see what United does. Okay, well, they do a here's a United flight in 2 hours. So here is a United A319. There's also some SkyWest. Let's go and take the main line here, and let's see what we get. Look at this. They're going to depart from gate Charlie 31, and they're going to land at Tango 13. So they're going to the T Concourse 13. That's United land in Atlanta. So now what I could do, if you've seen my flight notes and stuff that I keep, I would put in for that flight, I would go and put T13. That way I would know what gate, when we get off the runway and ground control says say parking, I can look over and say T13. And they're going to think, oh, wow, this person knows what they're doing. We have to be nice to him. They may not be saying that, but there you go. Past 30,000 feet, usually around 25,000 if there's no turbulence. Sometime between here and final cruise, I'm going to go ahead and do seatbelts in case somebody's got to go to the bathroom. And I usually go on this airplane, I go to auto. Airbus, it just goes off. So looking good here, passing 31,000 feet. We are doing 5 miles to top of climb. Right now we are 360 miles north of Denver, landing 1418 Zulu, flying real world time. So as you can see, I've got a little less than an hour of flying time. You know what that does in the morning? That means I have time to go over to Spy Galley and make breakfast, which is really pretty cool. So as we come to our final cruising altitude, I'm going to say this is a really solid little update for this airplane. Really? So, oh, look at this. They've changed the cabin here. I think this is new. We now have first class seating. They didn't have first class seating. They've changed the cabin. Okay, here's something that goes on. I'm in cockpit view and stuff right now, but I can't turn. There's like a thing that holds you here. So I can't turn over to the right. They've changed the seats. The seats have changed. They've updated the textures in the cabin. Ooh, there's a surprise. See, the floor's looking nice and clean. There is a lighting enhancement. I don't think there's anything in the bathrooms. So we got coffee here. Yeah, let's see. If I want to go over here, if I turn around this way, we can kind of come around here. Yeah, see, there's some sort of a turning thing that I run into here. Look at that. They've gone and put some things here. What do we have? PMDG, welcome. So we now have monitors. I have never been on an airplane that has monitors like this. Never. I know, I need to get a life. Let's come on down here. They put AOPA. Look at the AOPA pilots. How about that? That's awesome. Looks like they've also put a safety briefing card. There, this is great. See, that's when developers show. That's you know, when they go and do things like that. That's great. Thank you. This is really nice. So now we have those. We also have a first class section, which more represents. I think that, you know, that's what we would get is a first class section here. Let's see. Let's go and take a look. I've got. I think this is from my last flight. I think this is an Airbus. Yeah, this is an Airbus. So an Airbus has 3 rows. I need to go and take a look at. Okay, let's go over here real fast. So where do I turn off that? So seating chart and this and the Airbus, because we're flying the 737 today on the spy flight. So come on down here. There is a United. There's stats. There is a 737. And do I have a seating chart? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so United is flying 3 rows of first class too. So United's doing 3 rows of first class too. Hey, you know what? This is great. No complaints here. We got a first class section. Okay, hint, hint. Can't wait for a real cockpit door. And we got a coffee machine, and that's all that matters. And we have now hit our final cruising altitude of 33,000 feet. Oops, you're still looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, sorry about that. But hey, like I said, now we have got, this is new. There's another update. Isn't that great? That's also one of the fun things about flight sim like this, is discovering these kinds of updates. And if you're one of those people that hasn't gotten to do a real world flight in a very long time, and you kind of like doing this, that's kind of a nice moment. We are currently 327 nautical miles out from Denver. Our top of descent is scheduled for about 223 miles. Normally on a flight like this, one of the things that I will do is I'm going to hit the pause button, and we'll just fly along. And I will, unless something big happens, I will start the recording again at 100 miles from top of descent. So if you're flying along with me, which I hope you are, so that you can you know, maybe go to school on the mistakes that I'm making, go and just fly along. Stop the YouTube video right now, and when you get to around 100 miles from top of descent, start up the YouTube again. So hit pause, hit start, and that way you don't have to listen to me attempt to be funny for a while. So, oops, I meant to hit this button. Sorry, I didn't mean for you to see me like that. That's scary in the morning. I need to learn my buttons better. I will look forward to seeing you 100 miles from top of descent. Wow, look at the scenery. You see airplanes like this and scenery like this, and it really does just become really a wow experience here. Hi, welcome back. We're about 100 miles from top of descent here. Doing a little drone camera because drone camera is a little bit fun too. And thank you for coming on in here. Let's turn on all the data here, and you can see that we are indeed, well, right around 100 miles from top of descent. You might remember just before we did the breakfast break here that we learned that there was a runway change. So let's go back to the digital ATIS here. And normally I land on 16 right, but the digital ATIS says 16 right is closed. So let's go ahead and do an update right now. This is the latest weather information. This is 12:53 Zulu, and it still shows 16 right is closed. So we need to change to 16 left for landing. So during the break, I did go over here during breakfast, and I went and I got the charts for 16 left. So we need to go and change this in the flight management computer. So departure and arrival, and we're going to go, and instead of 16 right, we're going to activate 16 left. Flatiron 3 is good. It's going to be the Tofu and Tishner, and execute that. Okay, so that should work. Let's go into legs and make sure there's Tofu, Granola, Hippie, Folsom, Bobco, Eldo, Joe Bob, Kurt, and let's see, Kick Me. Yep, this is updated. So this got taken care of. So we are now going to be on the correct runway. Now then, ILS for this runway is 111.1. So let's go to 111.1 here. Now, if we're on a VATSIM event, we noticed as we looked over at the digital ATIS, Denver is also landing on 17 right. So if I were on VATSIM right now and there was ATC, I would also be getting the charts, and I would preset the ILS for the other runway that they're using. That way, if ATC changes me, it's button, 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 and I'm ready to go. And sometimes you need to be able to move that quickly. Inbound course is 173 degrees. So let's dial the course now to 173. 173. Okay, that's good to go too. And Denver, there is the Denver VOR, which is 117.9. So let's go down and do 117.9. That's already preset here. So I've got a VOR, and that way I'm going to get DME down here, distance to the Denver VOR down here as we get a little bit closer. The map's a little bit of a mess here, so let's also go ahead and we're going to go to the 80-mile range and look down here and go back to cruise mode. We are 76 miles from top of descent. At this point, if we were under ATC control, they might be telling us that we were clear to descend at pilot's discretion on the Flatiron 3 arrival, Denver landing south. So, sorry about the coughing and hacking. So that basically tells us that we are good to descend, and for landing south, that's going to put us out at Tishner here. So Tishner, as we look in here, is 13,000 feet and 210 knots. So we can now go and do 13,000 feet here. And 13,000 feet in there. There we go. So this is a Boeing. If you set this up correctly and your flight management computer set up correctly and you're in LNAV and VNAV, the airplane will start descending at the top of descent point, which is just shown up here in the map. It's just beyond Hippie here. So there's our top of descent there. So there's our preparation for that. The other things that we can do is we can also go and look at that ATIS. And the ATIS says that the altimeter in Denver is 3029. One of the things that I really like about this airplane is you can go and put that in. So I'm dialing the altimeter and I'm looking at a small little number down here. So 3029. Right, 3029, 3029. Because usually what's going to happen is when it's altimeter time, you're busy. You are busy in this airplane, and in any airplane. The fact that I can preset something like this means button, and again, that's helpful. The only other thing that I might do is let's go over here and check the real world flight. Here is our real world flight that I'm following right now. They got a little bit later departure than we did. So right now they are at flight level 340, 489 knots. They're going to be landing at 8:41 a.m. And so they're on time. We're going to be early. And, they're going to get Bravo 26. So one of the things I'll do is put in B26 over here. B26. And my notes are a real mess right now. This is yesterday's flight. I haven't had a chance to clean it up. So, but I'm going to put my arrival gate in there. And now let's go ahead and we'll brief the approach here. So at Tichenor, 210 knots and 13,000 feet. After Tichenor, we're going to go down to 10,000 feet at Jeeper, and it's 7,000 feet at Leeds. We've already set the ILS. We have not set decision height, which is 5,575 feet or 200 feet on the radar altimeter. It's easier to do the radar altimeter here, so radio minimums. And so sometimes it's hard to click this with the views that I have set. So radio, and I'm just going to set this to 200. Otherwise, you're just going to be cranking and cranking and cranking this knob for freaking ever. So that's why I'm using radio altimeter for my minimums this time. 5,000 feet, we would be cranking this thing for almost 3 minutes. And sitting here and just cranking knobs tends to make pilots cranky. There you go. Come on, you knew there was a bad joke coming there, right? Okay, so after that, there's our ILS. Once we get off the runway, on 16 left, we've got a couple of high speeds here. Probably going to get Foxtrot 4. Taxi in on Foxtrot. We know our gate is going to be B26. B26 is on the south side. So south side, south side west of the center. So now we know where our gate's going to be. So we know when we land, we are exiting to the left. They'd probably bring us in on Foxtrot, and we're going to want to go to Bravo Sierra. Yes, the Bravo Sierra taxiway here, which is no BS. Of course, you knew there was a joke coming there too. So now we've got this. And what I will do is I will go and I will have this set up on a view like this, because everything else is good and set up. And I'm going to go ahead and at this point, I'm going to turn on my flight following. That way, when I'm ready to start taxiing, the airplane's going to appear here and it's going to show me where I am. And that's just a really nice thing to have set up on the other monitor. If we were in the Phoenix, where charts are in the electronic flight bag, I would have it set up the same way. So all you have to do is just a quick glance at your electronic flight bag to know where you are on your taxi. And all of this is looking good. The Boeing has a descent checklist. So descent checklist, pressurization, landing altitude is set. Recall. Is there anything No, nothing wrong with the airplane. Auto brakes. Auto brakes. I usually go auto brakes 3 with this airplane. That just seems to be what I'm doing. Come on down here to init ref. And I've been also landing flaps 30. I don't know if that's right or wrong. It's what works for me. flaps 30. And our approach briefing is done. Descent checklist is good. And we are fairly confident that when we start our descent, everything's going to be perfect. So there we go. And we can come back here. Doors still closed. Nice view outside. This is usually the seat when I'm, if I'm going to go and do a flight. If I'm booking a seat or something, I usually try to get right around, just right by the leading edge of the engine. So this is kind of, I think that might be a little high. Yeah, this is about how it is for me. So this is the perfect seat in the airplane. At least for me, and you know, maybe it'd be first class, but I can't afford first class. Fact is, let's go ahead and just set this now, now that we got a nice cabin. I'm still not sure why it is. You can't turn. Well, I can turn this way, so that's good. I just couldn't turn beyond a certain point when we were faced the other way. I wonder if anything works here. Okay. There we go. This has been actually a pretty exciting week. I did a couple of other videos here on YouTube. Been really enjoying doing some of these. I hope you're liking them too. If you are, I'm still really new on YouTube, so likes and shares really do help me out. If you feel like doing that, that'd be great. Subscribe to the channel. That helps me out too. I'm still a ways away from being monetized and stuff here on YouTube, so if you like what you see, I do have Ko-fi and Patreon. That would be super duper nice. This is how it is that I'm paying the bills right now. And I am so incredibly grateful to have found the Flight Sim community on Twitch and YouTube. It really beats the heck out of moving into a homeless shelter. So thank you so much for watching the video. If you're one of those that has to put up with ads and stuff like that, thank you for doing those, especially on Twitch right now. Twitch is probably about a month away from starting to share an awful lot more of ad revenue with people like me, and I'm going to tell you that's going to probably be a day of huge celebration for me, because at that point in time I'm, you know, I'm certainly not going to be partying with Pokimane or people like that, you know, big content creators like Harris Eller, but getting closer. But thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the great support. The spy flight started off as a hobby, and it's become pretty much how life is working for me, and it's things are starting to look up a little bit, and I'm really grateful to you for putting up with my bad jokes and flying with me as often as you do. We also, this has been the best way to survive the first few years of COVID. And also, to be honest, this has been a great way to survive the absolute insanity around the world right now, because if you take a look at the little map of all the little flags on Twitch during the live stream, I mean, it's global. Global Friends right now is just absolutely does my heart a lot of good when I see all the nastiness that's happening in the world. So this has been just a great thing for me, and I hope it's been a good thing for you too. And enough speechifying. Let's go ahead. I've been negligent in setting my keeping my heading updated with our current heading. Even though the LNAV and VNAV have the airplane, I'm always trying to keep the heading centered up here. If we have an autopilot failure, some sort of a problem with that, hey, gotta tell you, now if we have to go off autopilot, it's real easy to say, oh, I need to be flying in this direction. And so that's one of the helpful things there. And we have started our descent. Captain might get on the PA and say hello from the flight deck. As you probably noticed, we've started our descent into Denver International Airport. Right now, Denver is about 99 miles to the southeast of us. Weather in Denver is pretty good. There's just a nice, gentle little breeze out of the... where is that? Hang on. See, I should have had this up in front of me. KDEN. And let's go down here. We're going to be on the 16s. Right now, there's a gentle breeze out of the south right now. It's a few clouds at 22,000 feet. Looks like it's a really nice day in the Denver metro area. Currently, it is about 75, 76 degrees. So a beautiful morning. Certainly want to thank you for flying with us today. We're going to be able to leave seatbelt sign off for a few more minutes, so if you got to make that last minute trip to the bathroom, now's the time. Please don't everybody do it at the same time, though. That makes the airplane rock and roll a little bit, and some people don't like that. See, I could do a cabin announcement without being Captain Sarcastic. Unlike yesterday's Airbus flight, right? Okay, 29,000 feet. I usually hit the seatbelt sign around 25, so we're good to go there. Everything looks good up here. Nothing really to do. Oh, you know what? Somebody forgot to do taxi light. I also forgot to do my engine starts. I really need to figure out a way to remember to do and to turn these, to do these. I leave them on the whole flight. Maintenance is going to write a real nasty memo. Boy, I understand you've been leaving your engine starts on. We're going to meet you outside the hangar tonight and have to learn you to turn those off. I'm sure maintenance people don't talk like that to pilots. And 27,000 feet, everything is set. I hope your flight's gone smoothly. This airplane just got a whole lot better, I think. Every time PMDG puts out an update, I really find that the airplane's working good. Only other thing we might do is go over here and look at the progress page. Denver is 81 miles out. When we land, we're supposed to have 6,200 pounds of fuel in the tanks. So one of the important things to go and do is take a look at remaining fuel. And so that's going to be, for me right now, I'm reading it as this bottom number here. FinRes, final reserve and alternate. I'm supposed to have 4.5. So 4,500. I'm going to have maybe, that's trip and taxi fuel. So 4.5 is what I'm supposed to have. We're obviously doing better. 6.2. I think that this is a particularly good number to look at because if you notice this airplane on the nose wheel, on the little flaps for the nose wheel, I think you probably noticed that it says ETOPS. This airplane is ETOPS rated. We can fly this thing on cross the pond. So making sure that we're not using too much fuel means that you could make this and do cross the pond. And so that's one of the numbers that I like to keep an eye on and make sure that I'm not losing too much fuel. So that's a good indicator of, hey, we're cross the pond capable. There's 24,000 feet. I'm going to do seatbelts. There's seatbelts. And things looking good. Hey, look at this. We're picking up the Denver VOR right now, 65 miles north of Denver. We look down here, it says 71, 65. Okay, we're sort of ballparky. I think that ballparky between those two, between the FMC and DME is probably an okay thing. I don't know if ballparky is a number that they use in the real airline business, but we're going to enjoy that for a while. I would imagine now that they've updated the cabin, we're going to probably see some more airline-specific things in the monitor there. Because and this is one of the neat things that's happened with the PMDG, and I think also the Phoenix. So let's say that you go and you get the United 737 livery. That means that this airplane will be configured the way United would configure it. If you did Lufthansa, maybe Lufthansa has the other autopilot. Maybe they've got different functions down here. That's going to change that configuration too. And I would assume that would also include some of the textures back in the cabin. So I think you can do that with both the PMDG and the Phoenix. And so now your cockpit is going to be more airline specific. And I think that that is another really nice little plus here for those of us that are flying different airplanes and different airlines. And our approach is looking pretty good. I don't think that there's anything I've really forgotten here. Everything looks good up here now, especially that I've gotten my continuous starts turned off. I'm sure there's some button or switch out of place. Generally, if I'm flying around by myself, I don't have a problem with these sorts of things. But if I've got a recording going or a live stream going, holy moly, the number of things that I forget. Coming over the Front Range, Colorado right now. This is the Front Range town of Loveland, not to be confused with Loveland Ski Resort, which is on I-70 just east of the Eisenhower Tunnel. And you see some of these long lakes along the Front Range like this. Over on the co-pilot side is we're a little late on this, but if you look back over here, back in this general area, you would see a big valley known as North Park. There is a little set of hills and then another big valley called Central Park. And if you keep going further south, there is a place called South Park. So yes, indeed, there is a real place called South Park. I'm practically certain that probably in that area there's a kid named very much like Cartman that lives there. I don't know if they have cheesy poofs there, but you know. And by the way, in the Denver area, there is a place called Casa Bonita, which is Cartman's favorite place to go in Denver. And from what I understand, the creators of South Park have bought it and are trying to save it from bankruptcy. And we're looking pretty good, 16,000 feet. Oh, now this changes. So standard has changed to yellow. I really appreciate the Airbus flashes at you. Yes, I like a flasher. Watch, that's going to get clipped now. But it will flash at you and it reminds you, oh, altimeter reset as opposed to just a color change. You know, having something flash at you gets your attention. Oh, this needs to be taken care of. It's not got alarms and going crazy at you, but I kind of feel like that's nice. And we need to update our heading. We are heading 099 degrees, and this is good. We're right, handling VNAV fairly good. I think we are a little bit high. How about some speed brake to help us descend a little faster? And if we look outside, you can see the speed brakes have popped up just a little bit. And so, yeah, we were a little high. We're supposed to be below 15,000 feet at Be Safe. So we were about 500 feet too high. The too high police are going to get me now. Up here comes vertical deviation. It's in the lower right-hand corner here of the navigation display, and right here by the altitude tape in the primary flight display. And then I'll go and let it catch up, and then we'll stow the speed brakes. And our heading is still 099. We're nicely caught up. We've got a speed reduction coming up here on our descent. At this point in time, if we're in a VATSIM event, though, one of the things that's probably going to happen is they're going to want us to do their speeds. So at this point, I'm going to hit speed intervention, and at this point, we should probably be closer to 210. By doing speed intervention, it's still going to manage our descent, but it's going to also give us control over our speed. And from here, approach ref is set, flaps 30, 131. I usually round it up a little bit, so let's call it 135. How about a notch of flaps? There goes flaps 1. And you can even see flaps doing that flap thing. And usually what I can do is at 210, I can go and have flaps 2. Helps me keep a little bit more control of my speed on descent, especially if I'm too high. ATC just called descend and maintain 8,000. So descend and maintain 8,000. As opposed to stopping at Tishner. And now I can go, let's do one more click. We now have flaps 2. I think we're done with speed brakes, so come over here and hit the armed button. Speed brakes are now armed. And we're about 210. Perfect. We're supposed to stop at 13,000 feet here at Tishner, and then it's going to continue our descent. We are still picking up the VOR. Everything looks good up here. Approach checklist. Only thing on the approach checklist is altimeters. Altimeters are checked and set. And nice view over the north side of Denver. And here comes a turn. And we're going to go and set our heading. Kind of just generally. Our map range right now is 20 miles. So let's go ahead and do 10. This also makes it a little bit easier to see if we have any TCAS alerts. And as we get a little bit closer in here, we might be getting our descend clear for the ILS approach runway 16. They would probably tell us 180 knots until 5 miles DME. So at this point, we're going to start a speed reduction and to 180. And usually what that's going to be is the last big checkpoint, and that's in our case 180 knots probably to Leeds. So 180 knots to Leeds is what they would say to us. So we're good there. Speed's coming down. I think another notch of flaps. We're now flaps 5. Speed brake is armed. Auto brakes are set. How about flaps 10? Flaps are going down to 10. And I can start to see a airport and a runway. And look at that. We got glide slope. We got localizer, it appears. Yes, 22 miles out. We're approaching 10,000 feet. Let's go ahead, and it's a little early, but we're going to do landing lights. We'll also do nose light, do the 10,000 foot cabin call. And since we do have glide slope and localizer, let's go ahead and hit the approach button. And get a little bit of help from the autopilot just to get us centered up. If you're on a VATSIM event, you know, we all want to turn off the autopilot as fast as possible. But on a VATSIM event, you know, you're going to be switching to tower. You've got several other things to do. So, you know, no shame in using the autopilot as you're setting up for your approach like this. There's 10,000 feet. Everything else looks good to go here. We got a landing checklist to do in just a few. You can kind of verify where you are. So Jeeper, Joe Bob, Kurt, Kick Me, and Leets. Leets is when we're going to do our speed reduction. I usually do gear somewhere before my speed reduction. Maybe I'm waiting a little bit too late to do landing gear. I don't know. There's 10,000. We're going to hold on to 10,000 at Joe Bob and continue. VNAV path, GP. Okay, I think it's got us. VOR localizer is good. It's still on VNAV path. Okay, here comes glide slope. I was reading the wrong indicator. Glide slope, we're about ready to capture it. See, the little diamond is the glide slope. The triangle is VNAV path. So when the GP goes away, then the glide slope, the approach is controlling, not just the path. Okay, here's Kick Me, here's Leets. There's my final slowdown. So a little bit beforehand is when we're going to do landing gear. Okay, GP. So glide slope path, I'm guessing. So now that's green. So now glide slope is controlling our descent. Got a little bit of flap here. How about landing gear? There goes wheels. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the flight recorder so we can go ahead and see the landing, see how crappy I do. Once again, we're going to take a look and see, okay, flaps 30, based on the current weight, it's 130 knots. I'm going to add a little bit to it, so let's call it 135. I've also got to reset my heading to 173 in case we have to go missed. Almost deletes. In multiplayer, I will hardly ever go missed unless I want to practice it. On VATSIM, you are expected to go missed approach if there's a problem. You know, two people don't land on the same runway at the same time. And this is what it looks like north of Denver. I don't remember it being this green. This is a little green right now. I think that usually this time of year it's a little more brown. Little bit more dry and parched on this part. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So 135 is what I'm going to go for. 135. Speed's coming down. Landing checklist. Engine start switches to continuous. Engine starts are continuous. Speed brake is armed. It's that green thing up there. Speed brake is armed. Auto brakes are set. Landing gear is down, 3 green. Flaps, green light, and we're slowly still rolling the flaps out. So I'm going to say landing checklist is complete. I'm still rolling out the flaps right now. Now, the last time that I used my physical throttles, my Thrustmaster throttles were on takeoff. So the throttles are still forward. Look over, make sure auto throttle is engaged. Now I'm moving my throttles back so that it's going to be closer to what it is that what it is that we have here. So because I usually am going to disengage auto throttles here. And one more click of the flaps. There's flaps 25, flaps 30, excuse me. Hands on the stick. Hands on the throttles, getting ready to disengage auto throttle, getting ready to disengage autopilot. Last thing I do before I disengage the autopilot is look at the nav display and look and see what the winds are. So winds are from the right, pushing us to the left. It's 7 knots. AP is off, silence the alarm. Captain's got the airplane.
500.
Auto throttle is still engaged right now. I don't remember this much green on the north side of the airport either.
300.
Little off to the side. Auto throttle is off. Captain's got the throttles, minimums. Reversers. The wind picked up my right wing. Get back over in the center of the runway. There we go. That was a little sloppy. 60 knots. Reversers. Auto brakes disconnected. Exiting left on the high speed like we talked about. I've already got the map preset, so we are exiting right where we thought. Foxtrot 6. Speed brakes going down. Flaps going up. Clean up the airplane. Braking. Landing lights. Strobe lights. APU. There's the Foxtrot taxiway. Remember our gate number? I wrote it down. Bravo 26. That's the south side. So on Foxtrot, we are looking for our next taxi is going to be Bravo November. Let's go ahead and we're going to turn off traffic. And we can come down here and go transponder to transponder as opposed to Terra. Everything's nice and clean here. We can turn off continuous thrust. And so far, so good. No checklists at this point. Next checklist is shut down. Let's see, we can turn off the auto brake. Do we have hot brakes? Brake temperatures 1.4, 1.5. So we had one of the things that I'm noticing a lot in Microsoft Flight Simulator now is if you've got a crosswind, even in a jet like this, it's starting to pick up your wing a little bit. So used to be when you're coming in a little crabby, you had to just worry about your rudder. Now you've, like in the real world, you got to also dip the wing a little bit too. Otherwise that wind is going to pick you up like it did to me, and we're not going to look very good. Adding a little bit of thrust here. These are a long taxi routes in Denver. Not massively long, but let's go ahead and kick that taxi speed up to about 15 knots or so. Looking up here real fast, APU's available. We'll go ahead and switch some buttons. Another thing we could do is we could turn off probe heat. Maybe in the wintertime that would stay on a little bit longer, but probably not. In other airplanes, once you land, I think the CJ4, you really need to turn it off almost immediately because those probe heaters get so hot that on the ground they will burn themselves up. And that's, I guess, something that CJ4 pilots do all the time, and it's bad. It's very expensive. People get yelled at. Okay, so how's our speed? There's about 12 knots. We could go and add just a little more. But you know, if you go and look outside the airplane like this, looking outside the airplane, this is taxi speed. This is what it looks like. I've been away from airplanes a while, but I remember what the view looks like outside the window. So there you go. Okay, we should be coming up on Charlie November. Charlie November, how about that? Then it's going to be Bravo November. No, Charlie Sierra, Bravo November, and then our turn. So 1, 2, third available left is our next turn. If you've got a second, you can come over to Menu, FS Actions, and be ready with FS Actions. The first thing you're going to want to do is chocks with this airplane. Okay, coming up over here, look at the taxi sign, Charlie Sierra. We're about ready to make a turn, so thrust idle. We're at 18 knots now. So we got a 90-degree turn here. We want to be around, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 knots. No scratches on the paint. There's the Bravo Concourse. Speed, we're 17 knots here. I'm going to lightly tap my brakes. 16, 15, 14. That's probably okay. I think the books that I read, the flight manuals, it's supposed to be closer to 10. So there's 13, 12, 11. That's probably good. Look over here. Start our turn into the gate area. There's about 10 knots in the gate area. I think that's probably the speed limit for in the gate area is about 10 knots a taxi. We're going to get just a little bit more. So at this point, I'm going to go and switch my chart over. And okay, so we're going to 26. So we're going to go looks like one gate beyond this little restaurant, mid-restaurant area. The next one is the United Club area here. And it's the same on the other side. So there's the little restaurant zone there. So 2 gates beyond the restaurant zone. Oh, get over here. Forgot to do the little swerve turn. Okay, there's a good 10 knots. So we're behaving pretty good. And we're on that. Look over here. Okay, there's that little restaurant zone right there. There is gate 24. 26 should be the next one over. So over here, if you're doing an early morning flight into Denver, favorite place to go is Eatai's right here for a breakfast sandwich. You'll also get a really tasty cup of Bailey's and coffee. Sometimes you get a second one free. Okay, so I'm guessing this is our gate. We can zoom and see. Do we have numbers? Look at that. 26. So we can start our turn. One of the things that's kind of missing here is just a good generic gate guidance system. That would be really nice. Turned a little too sharp. Look at the paint. It says Bravo 26. There's our correct gate. And then once you get lined up, right on the line. Chicago, there's the paint actually means something. I haven't looked at these close enough to see. So I usually stop right about here because that puts my engines right about there. Let's see if we could actually read something on this. I really can't read anything on that. So maybe for the 737, let's go to the bigger one. Well, this is probably good. So parking brakes are engaged. And since we got the APU, let's do engine 1, engine 2, and if you're fast, you can come in and hit the APU generator quick. And then you come up here and you can do the APU bleed. As soon as you do the engines, passengers want to stand up, so seatbelts off. Disarm the doors. We're going to do 2 fuel pumps. And that nose light should have done that too. Then come on down here, transponder to standby. If we're already over here, you can go to ground services. And we need to put chocks into place. Once you get chocks into place, you can request ground power. And sometimes that will go and get you a gate. Sometimes. There's ground power connected. We can punch that in. There's ground power. Now it says that the jetway is inhibited. So, oh, the jetway is already there. Okay, it did get it. I didn't think I saw it moving. So now what we'll do is we can come over here, go to the door. You do have to open your own door here. And so there's the door open. One of the things I also like about the Phoenix and the PMDG is they did a really good job of setting the door coordinates. They really do match up, which is nice. Okay, go back over here. We're going to go to ground services, page 2, page 3, put in a 0 for passengers, and start deplaning. Next page, page 4, put in a 0 for the forward cargo hold, and request the cargo. Put in a 0 for the aft cargo, and request the loader, and request the carts. The last thing we can do while we're waiting for these is come up here and look at our current fuel on the airplane. We have 5,500. We can then go and look at our flight plan. And the flight plan said we were supposed to have final reserves and alternate 4.5. That's really, really good. That's exceptionally good. I'm going to stop the flight recorder now. And let's see, we can go over to Sim Toolkit Pro. My landing rate was a minus 258. Those numbers seem awfully big and stuff like that. I'm not really holding my head in shame with a lot of these. I don't really hold my head in shame with those numbers. Now, we've already gone to the gate. We've opened up the door. We got the cargo open. We've got the power. So that's why we've got all of this stuff out like this. But you know what? We can go ahead and see what we're doing. Multiplayer. Yes, it will show you in multiplayer. See, we can hit pause the replay and move it forward just a little bit. And now let's resume the replay. The replay that I'm using right now is free. You can get it at flightsim.to. Just do flight recorder, and that should take you to it. And we can kind of come over here. Okay, that's not a horrible landing. And then you can see the wing got picked up a little bit there. We got centered up, not bad. Let's hit pause. Roll this all the way to the end. Stop the replay. And we're back to doing all of our stuff. There's going to be alarms and everything. It really does mess up your download. You're unloading and stuff like that. So if we come in here, there's all sorts of screaming and yelling and dogs and cats living together in mass hysteria. So if you're going to go and do those sorts of things, it kind of messes that up. But you know what? We did it. We survived. And I hope this helped you out just a little bit too. As I always like to say on these flights, it's not about the right way or the wrong way. This is just what it is that I'm finding is working for me right now. Hope you're able to do a flight like this and it helps you out just a little bit too. As I said, I'm new here on YouTube, so I'm still reading all the questions and comments. If there's a better way to do this, if you're a real-world pilot and says, no, don't do it this way, do it that way. I always am excited to learn how to do it the right way. And I hope you'll join us over on the Spy Flight. It's over on Twitch, and we basically fly Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu. As I silence the alarms and we take a look at the nice picture of our airplane having landed. Thanks for flying along. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're having fun with this airplane. I know I am. And I will see you again in the friendly skies of YouTube and even sooner on Twitch. Stay healthy, stay safe. Cheers.